While the United States and Canada have their eyes on Mexico's energy, it's actually been Russia which has made the first move. Russia's Lukoil was the first foreign oil company to benefit from Mexico's reforms, but that is just one part of the increasingly complex energy puzzle in North America. CCTV's Jessica Stone has more.
Canada's oil sands have made it an emerging heavy hitter in petroleum production. Forecasters predict Canada will produce as much as 6 million barrels a day by 2030. And thanks to new technology to extract oil from tight shale formations, the United States is on track to produce more than 9 million barrels of crude oil a day by 2016. By contrast, Mexico's crude oil output peaked at 3.4 million barrels a day in 2004 and has since fallen. But with the stroke of a pen last year, Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto moved to change that, opening up Mexico's oil fields to foreign investment, hoping to increase production.
The energy reform will increase the productivity and competitiveness of the entire national economy.
So when the North American leaders gather this week in Mexico, energy is sure to be on the agenda.
Integrating not only the pipelines, but the gas ducts, and eventually the electric grids makes eminent sense.
It is my pleasure to welcome two great friends.
The summit is also Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper's first meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama since a new U.S. government report gave Obama new reasons to approve the building of a Canadian oil pipeline to U.S. refineries, known as Keystone XL.
He will talk about the facts in this report, and the facts are you got a choice between rail and pipeline, and rail has between 28 to 42% higher emissions than the pipeline. Ergo, the conclusion to that is let's move ahead.
And I think Canada's been immensely patient, but they're going to say, hey, out of some kind of respect for our relationship, Canada deserves a decision just like the American people.
Mexican leaders will likely be watching after having their own oil pipeline battles with the U.S. in the 1970s. But experts say the reopening of their oil fields gives the Mexicans new leverage in their continental relationships as oil companies from both the U.S. and Canada line up to drill in the waters off the Mexican coast.
Who offers the best deal is going to be the rule of the game. And if Chinese companies or European companies offer a better deal, let it be.
Nevertheless, NAFTA, the 20-year-old free trade agreement between the three countries, provides a favorable foundation between them on which to integrate energy production and delivery. In a recent poll, 70% of Mexicans favor North American integration. Jessica Stone, CCTV, Washington.
Now, one of the voices you heard in Jessica's report just now was Manuel Suarez Mier from the American University here in Washington. He also served as chief of staff for the governor of the Bank of Mexico and was the top Mexican diplomat in Washington for economic affairs during the NAFTA negotiations. He joins me now right here in the studio.
Good evening.
Thanks for joining us. When you look at, how can I put it, say an assets and liabilities sheet for Mexico and its membership of NAFTA, what do you see?
A very positive result. Undoubtedly very positive in terms of trade creation, jobs, dynamism of the economy. Now, the detractors of NAFTA point out at Mexico's mediocre rate of growth. The problem was that external circumstances, the emergence of China at the time in which we couldn't make the necessary structural reforms in Mexico, meant that China could grow very fast because they were taking advantage of the long-hanging fruits that could be taken easily, and we couldn't because we didn't make the necessary ancillary reforms that would support NAFTA.
Right, the world has changed, you're quite right on that, but notwithstanding the fact that there was the emergence of China, as you say, Mexico's GDP remains a fifth of the United States.
Yes.
That's where it was in 1994 when NAFTA was created.
Yes, and that's precisely the problem of not having done the necessary reforms. If you want to grow, you need your competitiveness to grow accordingly. And for that, you need your productivity of labor growing up as fast. We didn't do any of those things. We stalled, we wasted 18 years with no reforms that have finally now been passed by a combination of President-elect Enrique Peña Nieto with outgoing President Felipe Calderón. One provided the support of the PRI congressmen and women, and the other the impulse of outgoing president. So between them, they started doing the reforms, and Peña Nieto on his own has completed most of them. So we can expect a complete change now and a much faster rate of growth in the future.
But, you know, how do you measure the real benefits? From 1960 to 1980, Mexico's GDP doubled.
Yes, well, under very peculiar circumstances, and under 12 years of populist regimes that were spending like crazy. The bill that they left behind was total chaos for a decade and no growth. So that's what happens when you have a populist regime that completely obliterates public finance equilibrium and gets indebted. Just to give you an idea, when President Echeverría took office in 1970, the debt to GDP ratio of Mexico, external debt, was 4%. When López Portillo finished 12 years later, it was 100%. That bankrupted the country, but yeah, you had artificial growth very fast those years.
If you measure the benefits that each country has got out of NAFTA, the three members, Canada, the United States, and Mexico, has Mexico got as much benefit as the other two countries?
Absolutely. In many respects, the rule of law is much better today than before because we have equal treatment to all NAFTA members, companies and individuals that have recourse to use the courts of any of the three countries in any dispute of business issues. We have adopted a much better macroeconomic set of policies, which means that we have stable finances. We have a debt which is fortunately about half that of the US in relation to the size of the economy, 35% of GDP, our total debt. So all in all, we have set up the conditions to really take advantage of much faster growth in the future. And we haven't had a single financial crisis in 18 years, in 20 years. And that's important because financial crises are terrible for wiping out wealth and making many people poor.
Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.